Good day to you. Today I am going to do a little bit different video. Normally, when I record videos, I tend to talk about movies or some theological topics. But today I'm going to go slightly different. I'm still going to be talking about a pop culture topic, but it's not going to be about movies. It's going to be about video games. It's, and in fact, a specific video game. Now, understand, I am a gamer. I've been playing video games probably since I was like I was 7 or 8 years old. I remember when I was a little kid, my dad brought home a Nintendo, and me and my brother played uh, Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt to endless hours, many many hours. Uh, and then that was the only game console that my dad ever bought for us. The next time there was a video game in our house was the Sony PlayStation. I bought that for myself. I was kind of really proud of myself because I was working at a Golden Corral and I got enough money to go buy my own PlayStation, and I was so very proud and excited for myself. But anyways, um, but I always loved playing games. Like my friend would have a Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64, and I play games when I hang out with him. Or sometimes we would rent a console from a video like a movie rental store because it used to be that you could rent like a N64 and a couple of the cartridges. You do that because a lot of people didn't couldn't afford them, afford the consoles. So, but like I said, I played a lot of games, sports games, pro wrestling games. I've loved pro wrestling games for a long time. Uh, but nowadays, I own a PlayStation 5. And I kind of go in phases as to how much I play it. But in like last month or so, I've been really playing a lot of the game Red Dead Redemption 2. And that is what I'm going to be talking about here today, is that game. Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, this isn't the first time I played this game. Um, it came out in 2018, so it's a 7-year-old game. It's a sequel to obviously Red Dead Redemption 1. The first Red Dead Redemption, I'm gonna guess, came out 2009ish probably. So there's quite a gap between the two. It's made by Rockstar, the same people who make the Grand Theft Auto series. Uh, but I definitely am a bigger fan of this than of Grand Theft Auto. So I played Grand Theft Auto 5, which is the most recent one. Grand Theft Auto 6, I believe, is coming out next year, some point. But I played Grand Theft Auto 5. Does it have enjoyable elements of it? Sure. But the thing that makes Red Dead Redemption 2 stand out is a few things. One, um, one is the graphics, the visuals of the game. The visuals of Red Dead Redemption 2 is so much better than it is of Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto has the big cities, the cars, and everything, and don't get me wrong, it still looks pretty good for a game that came out in I guess 2009. And they've upped the graphics on it a few times. You can get a PlayStation 5 level graphics game of Grand Theft Auto. Um, but Red Dead Redemption, I mean, between you have the ocean, I mean, you have the massive lakes, you have the river, these streams, the waterfalls, the mountains. Walking through the snow. You have the swampland, an old-fashioned city called Saint Denis, which is quite obviously based off of the real city of New Orleans, and it is ridiculously it definitely has strong comparisons to the real life New Orleans. In fact, I was in New Orleans just a month ago, and so I was kind of looking at as I was observing some of the things. I'm like, I remember seeing the game getting that, and I saw the game, this in the game, and this in the game. I'm like, man, that game did pretty good. I mean, obviously, can't have everything that you would have in a Grand Theft Auto game, but it's not, it doesn't have everything that you'd have in the real life New Orleans, because the real life New Orleans is pretty big, but it was still pretty impressive. Um, but what really makes it stand out against Grand Theft Auto? So a few years ago, there was this movie that came out. It's called Free Guy, starring Ryan Reynolds. And the whole thing about the story is it's about Ryan Reynolds' character. He's a character in a video game that actually becomes self-aware, and he begins to realize that he's in a video game, and he starts making his own decisions. And so this would be a form of artificial intelligence, right? And he ends up doing the good guy thing instead of killing people. And understand that that movie is not so much a reaction to things like Fortnite, because Fortnite is a totally different beast. It is very much a reaction to the way Grand Theft Auto is played. Because Grand Theft Auto pretty much rewards you for doing really morally bad, questionable to bad, horrible things. Red Dead Redemption 2 is different. Red Dead Redemption lets you figure out whether you want to be an outlaw. Do you want to be a hero? Kind of the reluctant hero, the guy on a path of redemption? Or are you going to be the morally gray guy, the guy that sometimes does the good, sometimes does the bad? And I played through the game now twice. The first time I played through as the bad guy. I did some really questionable things throughout. And it's really, this is one of those things where the game is so good, because the game has really good story, really good woven story. And there's a lot of characters. I sometimes had to go on to IGN or Wikipedia to remind myself who certain characters were, especially because I didn't play straight through like in one day. Both playthroughs I think took me at least a year to get through the entire game. Because I, wander off and play different things. Or wouldn't play my PlayStation 5 at all for a while. For various reasons, I just wasn't playing. Well, so it takes probably over close to a year. And the reason I like that it takes a while to go through that, because the game is a game that I like to every now and then sink into. Because it is a relaxing game. It's calming. Again, that's kind of different than Grand Theft Auto 5. I kind of wonder if it's an extrovert versus introvert game. I wonder if more extroverted people prefer Grand Theft Auto 5. I can't guarantee that's true. But as an introvert, I love Red Dead Redemption 2, because it does have that hunting elements, those fishing elements. And the thing is, like I said, it's got these calming, peaceful elements, but that doesn't mean there's not tense moments. Like, you have shootouts. It's a Western. It's a Western. So you're going to have your shootouts. The hunting element to the game, it's kind of calming at times, but also you occasionally get intense moments in the hunting. Probably the prime example, really good example of this is when this isn't actually hunting. This is where you're just riding the horse, and a grizzly bear happens to be kind of nearby, and your horse decides to knock you off of itself, and all of a sudden you find yourself just with a little itty bitty pistol, and you're like, yeah, that bear's gonna kill me. So, because that pistol's, you fire that pistol as much as you can, and yeah, the bear totally gets you. Man, especially cougars were worse than the bears, because they come out of you get a tiny bit of warning with the bears, but there is no warning with those cougars, those mountain lions in the game. But anyways, like I said, it's a very, it's got tense moments, it's got relaxing moments. But again, I go back to the morality thing. And when you play the morally good guy, and that's what I played the second round, is where you do your best to do the right thing. And there's times where I kind of failed, and not to mention the part, because I'll admit sometimes the controls get a little wonky and weird. They kind of get glitchy and things like that. So that's kind of one of the downsides. And I have to expect it with a game that is as massive as this one is, that occasionally will have moments and glitches in the system. But every now and then, because of those glitches in the system, I'd accidentally trample over someone and get with my horse, and I get evil points. I'm like, it's not my fault that I lost control of the horse. So, but anyways, um, it is still what, but like at the end of the game, when you get to it actually begins to give you these moments of reward moments of the good things that you do throughout the game. Like, you come across people who they're like, you saved me, and as your character actually eventually gets tuberculosis. There is actually a way to not get tuberculosis. It has. I'm probably gonna play through the game a third time. But there's a way to not end up with some of the situations you end up with. But they kind of, when you realize, you kind of get to the realization your character is going to die. He's on the path to death. They do all these moments that are just really touching and almost heartbreaking as he's saying goodbye to people, knowing that he's nearing his end. Um, as he has these flashbacks and these memories of this man that this turned out to be a hero. He was kind of a path of redemption. And it's such a good story. And I think what I love about these type of games, these morality games, Red Dead, Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, the Fable games that came out for Xbox, all of those games were really, really good at getting you to explore morality and consider the consequences of the things you do. And sometimes your goal is just to do the right thing. So, you're trying to be all good. Sometimes you're trying to be all bad. I'd be kind of interested to play the game where your goal isn't to just be good or just to be bad, but your goal is to go with the decision you think seems right at the time. And it may be a really, really interesting examination of moral decisions. And I think there's when you play evil, there's an attractiveness to that. I think that's kind of the attractiveness of Grand Theft Auto, that there is no choices. It's your choice is only to be a criminal, to be kind of a gangster, mobster type. That's your only real choice in the game, and there's something appealing to that. And I believe that these games do kind of reflect our inward sinful nature. And so that's where I get to the point of, what does this have to do with the pastor's conversation? And it's these games sometimes show who we are for real. We don't always do the right thing. And even doing the right thing isn't always very appealing. And now there's moments in this game where, like, when I did the evil mode, there's moments in the game that even in the evil mode I couldn't draw myself to do, because it was just really, really steep what your character is considering doing. But I thought it was a good game, and and it's good to, and like I said, it gets me really, really thinking about how we conduct ourselves, how we make the decisions we make. Now, here could be kind of a question. Should a person play video games? And I'm going to argue yes. It's okay to. The main thing is don't become addicted. Take breaks and things like that. I'll admit there's times where I do gaming binges. If you're going to do that, you got to make sure after you've done that binge, don't play for a while. Takes quite a while off. Kind of balance it out. I get it that sometimes you get into that mode and you're really trying to complete a story or this series of missions or whatever, really tough levels. But if you find yourself having one of those nights, then you're going to take quite a few nights off and not do it for a while. And of course, and don't do that the night before you when you have something going on important the day after, or where you should be doing something else. Don't ever you let it um, be a source of neglect for your vocations. Um, and I get because I know very well that temptation. In college, in particular, I struggled with that at times. So, uh, I know I'm kind of all over the place here, just kind of rambling on a little bit. But if you're ever looking for a good video game, I actually encourage you to play this. Like I said, it's going to take a long time to get through the game, but it's got the controls are. I think they're very easy to learn once you get them down. They're pretty easy to learn. One of the things you got to remember is to keep feeding yourself, feeding your horse. Otherwise, there are consequences to that. Because at one point, my character, it said that he was severely underweight. Like, oh, I better start eating more. But actually, after a while, that was actually the tuberculosis slowly killing him. But, um, but yeah, and I honestly play it. It's like, kind of really be reflective and say, why am I choosing what I am choosing? Now, you might be having a goal of being all good or all bad, but what choice do you actually feel compelled to make within the story? And that choice that you feel most compelled to make, even if it's not the one you make while you're playing, but the one that you feel most compelled, what does that say about you? What does it say about us? So, I hope this was interesting and nice change of pace for you. So, blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.